It's like, am I really about to drop another 3 to 4 grand on a laptop? Yeah, probably. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Adrian here for Digital Dojos, and today we are taking a look at Apple's all-new full-circle lineup of MacBook Pros and their newly launched M1 generation of chips with the M1 Pro and the M1 Max. So, for those of you who don't know about Apple's M1 chip, it is essentially their built-in Apple silicone chip. So this means CPU, GPU, memory. It's all shared architecture on one chip that they're famously known for and have been killing it in terms of capacity when it comes to their mobile devices, their own hardware and chips going away from like the standard CPU, GPU combination and integrating their own mobile chips across the board. We're now seeing that in the last year make its way to Macs a la M1. And that first generation of M1 brought truly great performance, but really truly great optimization and efficiency. And as much as Apple gets for its walled garden and controlled environment, it is one of the benefits when they do such a thing when it comes to like these hardware all-in-one kind of solutions. And we've seen it in the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro 13-inch, that's my current daily driver that I have here, the iMac, the Mac Mini, and today we're seeing Apple take that to the next level with their all-new 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pros. What's new? Well, there's a lot new and a lot old in this, but what's really driving all this and where I want to start is these new line of chips. These things are powerful. M1 Pro, that's the first iteration, and like think of this as like a PC equivalent of like you're looking at an i5, i7, i9. These are their iterations of their like CPU slash GPU slash memory combos here. The M1 Pro chip is going to support up to 10 cores of CPU performance, up to 16 cores in the GPU department, 32 gigs of RAM, and on the other end, the top of the line spectrum, the M1 Max is going to support up to 10 core CPU, doubling again in the GPU department up to 32 cores of GPU performance, and then doubling again in the memory department with 64 gigs of RAM support for the M1 Max-based chips. These are only going to be available on the new MacBook Pro 14 and 16-inch. The baseline 13-inch is still going to be that first generation of M1, so the non-Pro, non-Max model, which is interesting naming scheme because technically this is still a MacBook Pro. You can almost argue it's like a MacBook now, and then these are the Pro models, but nonetheless, here we are. These numbers on paper may not seem much. You're thinking like PCs and Macs have always supported 32 gigs, 64 gigs. Like that's nothing new. And you're right, but these are first-time numbers for M1-based chips because Apple only recently started this whole M1 transition across their Mac line. For example, my current MacBook Pro 13-inch M1 that I only switched to less than a year ago, maybe about a year now, only supports up to 16 gigs of RAM. This thing is maxed out, 16 gigs of RAM. Doesn't have the top-of-the-line hard drive, but nonetheless, like this is the max RAM you can get in here, and it only has 2 USB-C Thunderbolt ports. That's it. On the other end, you have 1 headphone jack. So effectively, this is a quote-unquote pro machine that only has 2 ports and supports 1 external display, and it's capped at 13 inches because there's no 16-inch M1 and 16 gigs of RAM. Now, that being said, this thing performs like a beast. It's super efficient, has crazy all-day battery life, and I've been happy with it by all means. But it definitely isn't without its limitations. And it definitely, in some cases, it doesn't always feel like that pro-level device. Well, that's changing a lot now with these new models. Because what else is new is the hardware and design perspective. This is Apple kind of really going back here in terms of like focusing on the thinness and the slight edges. Like these are rounded edges. These are, yes, believe it or not, those are ports on a MacBook Pro. We're finally getting ports back. We're getting HDMI. We're getting SD card. We're getting those same Thunderbolt 4 ports or USB-C. We're getting a all-new MagSafe charger, bringing that back, and an improved audio jack here across the board. All while also factoring in new tech like their display. The Liquid Retina display is now going to be a ProMotion display at 120 hertz. So you're getting a beautiful, beautiful display that these MacBooks have always been known for with that popular 120 hertz ProMotion technology, which a lot of people arguably would upgrade for. I mean, it's a big talking point in the newer iPhone 13 Pros right now, right? That some people are really a fan of. And now we're getting that in their MacBook, which alone, again, is a great technology that we're finally getting to see on the laptop level. So with that, it's brighter, crazy colors, great, overall specs when it comes to the tech specs. But yeah, the notch is there. That's definitely going to be the meme for this MacBook Pro. The notch is there on the MacBook Pro. Now, it's only built into the menu bar, and that's the only time you'll see it. You will never see it cut into an application, and that's because it's limited. It'll never, and that's why Apple's chosen their photos here very carefully. You'll never see it actually cut into an application, because when you're full screening an app, it just blends in with your menu bar. And they've purposely kind of made it blend away in the background. Very similar to what they kind of do here on the iPhone. Like, you can't even see my notch right now, but that's mostly due to the fact that I have just that, black screen as my wallpaper, or the black background. But again, big display upgrades for the ProMotion display while getting that notch. And the caveat here is the notch comes with like a 1080p webcam upgrade for FaceTime, but that's it. And I say that's it because that's a long overdue update, and they should have done that a while ago. But it's not like we're getting Face ID. It's not like we're getting like a tremendously great quality camera lens or whatever. Like, it's a minor upgrade in the camera department, much needed, but minor nonetheless. And, nothing more to it. I really wish we would have seen like a Face ID or what have you. The interesting thing about these MacBooks, though, outside of that, is it's like 10 steps ahead in terms of performance, while simultaneously taking like 10 steps back on everything that like Apple is known for. Because if you think of it, you're getting all this crazy new performance in the new processors and, M1 chips. You're getting ports back that Apple has essentially like spent the last couple of years taking away and forcing you to go with USB-C adapters. You are getting a keyboard that is newly designed. And by newly designed, I mean it's taking away the touch bar that they so famously have been pushing since like 2016. This is my original 2016 MacBook that I had. And touch bar is just fully gone now in favor of like proper function keys, because Apple couldn't really figure a way to like make that a big thing. And yeah, you're getting all these things that prosumers spent so much time being, driven away from because of the way that Apple's kind of been going with their hardware and forced to kind of find alternatives or workarounds or dongle mania. And you're getting it all back on top of getting killer performance. Again, stats, graphs, these are all things Apple were throwing out during their event. That doesn't translate to real world performance, but nonetheless, if it's anything close to the numbers you're claiming in terms of like the 9 to 13x faster GPU performance, comparing it to like the 3080 like Razer Blade PC up there, where essentially they're showcasing that their M1 chips are not only faster in GPU performance, but much less power hungry in terms of per watt usage. I think it's like something like 40 to 50% less energy, which funnels back to their claim of like a 21-hour battery life in their 16-inch MacBook Pro, which is insane on a pro level device. And if it's anything like this 13-inch M1 and how efficient this was in terms of battery life and overall energy performance, I believe it. I believe you're going to get like 2, 3, 4, 5 day usage out of that laptop on like light to heavy usage and never have to charge it. And that's the crazy thing. Like the numbers on paper are crazy for an M1 based Mac, not like just a standard like 64 gigs, 32 core GPU. Like those are standard numbers in other departments. But for an M1 Mac, I do think this is like the next big leaps and bounds for Apple in terms of the pro market. And it only paves the way for what we'll eventually see hit the Mac Mini, hit the iMac, and eventually when that Mac Pro with these M1 chips come out, it's going to be another. It's going to just be another barrier that Apple breaks in terms of performance. I was really happy with these initial first generation M1 Macs. I think that these next generation of M1 Pros and M1 Maxes are going to be even better. Not just on paper. I truly do believe like these are going to be really great machines. My circle of content creators and people that I follow, so far the general consensus has been like this is the MacBook that a lot of people have been waiting for, and really speaking to prosumers by giving them that performance they've been wanting and you will always, desire, while giving them a lot of the features that they've been lacking, or like the headaches that they've had due to past designs. And it's a win-win. The 14-inch and 16-inch is going to start at $2,000. You're still getting that Apple price tag. All of this is coming at a pretty penny, up to like the $3,500 baseline M1 Max and the 16-inch. But the great thing this year is that the 14-inch and 16-inch are pretty much interchangeable. Like, you don't have to go with one to get the other. For example, even though the M1 Max chip is only offered in the 16-inch here at the initial pre-builds, you can get a 14-inch and spec it with a M1 Max and even go up to 64 gigs of memory. So really, you're just compromising on screen size at that point. But you can get all that power in a smaller form factor. I have been sitting on which model I'm going to be going with. I am leaning towards the 14-inch model as of this video. This M1 MacBook has been great. Super portable. I'm loving it. I came from a 16-inch, which now just holding it in hand feels ginormous and massive. And I think the 14-inch is going to be like that perfect portability meets power with something like the M1 Max in it. So we'll see where I land eventually. So be sure to thumbs up and stay tuned and subscribe for that review when it comes out. But with that, this pretty much brings their Pro line full circle, because this M1, MacBook lineup and these M1 transitions is happening across the board. So these 14-inch, these 16-inch MacBook Pros are not what everyday consumers, well, a lot of you out there are going to go and pick up and buy. I truly believe that. These are more catered towards a very specific audience, and Apple is answering that call for that very specific audience. I think if you're a general consumer, the 13-inch M1 MacBook Pro, if you want to spend a little bit extra, like a back-to-school device or just a general daily driver, is a really great MacBook. I'd almost just consider this like a 13-inch MacBook. You don't even have to throw the Pro label on there, even though it performs very, very great. And then you have the MacBook Air, which is even cheaper, starting at $1,000 with the M1 chip. That is phenomenal for everyday use and phenomenal for the college student on the go or what have you. This 14-inch and 16-inch M1 Pros and M1 Max models are going to be for the video editors, the photographers, the content creators, the 3D animators, and just the power users in general who really want to push their workload and have it be portable. I think it's great to pave the next generation for what these M1 chips can be, and it's great to see Apple pushing the boundaries on their own devices while taking steps back and in some ways admitting their shortcomings in other areas. So I'd love to hear what you think about it. I know this is a long one, but exciting stuff to see. Throw your comments down below if you're interested, if you're going to be picking one up for your workflow or just daily driver, and which one you're getting, and other thoughts around all of that. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Hope to catch you in the next one. And as always, thanks for watching.